Grant Shapps made himself look like a fool on national TV. And I mean, it's not hard to be fair. But it's actually really good to see the interviewer calling out his nonsense. In the clip I'm about to show you, you'll see Grant Shapps trying his best to parrot the lines of the Prime Minister, saying the new oil and gas licenses will give us energy security. And it's rightly pointed out that it's just a lie. The truth of the matter is that the gas and oil extracted from the North Sea is sold on the open market. Some of it does come back here, but we don't have any control on how it's sold or how much it is or how much is retained. We buy it just like everybody else. And even Greg Hans, the Conservative Party chairman, has confirmed this. If we really did want to ensure our energy security, then we want to be investing in renewables. The price of them didn't go up just like oil and gas did. But I suppose there's no profit in renewables. However, I really must admit I did enjoy watching him squirm, and I think you will too.
And as soon as you do that,
but only
you're in danger of
20%
importing.
of what we use comes from the North Sea, so it's disingenuous to say that without this drilling that we're not going to have any gas or oil in the UK, isn't it?
No, of course, we'll import the difference. So this is exactly the point I'm making. We'll import the difference. And when you do that, be aware that our principal way of making up the gap is through liquid natural gas, LNG, and it contains 4 times the amount of carbon as the gas that we can actually bring into this country ourselves from our own resources. So not only would it mean that we are at the behest of foreign nations, not only would it mean that 200,000 people who work in the oil and gas industry's jobs will gradually be put at risk, not only would it mean we wouldn't get billions of pounds of taxation from those oil and gas companies, worst of all, it would also mean we would quadruple the amount of CO2 coming into the country. It would be a mad policy not to grant these oil and gas licenses. We're doing it because it gives us energy security, British energy made here in the UK, and because it actually decreases, not increases, the amount of carbon.
How much of the gas that we produce in the UK is actually sold in the UK and is actually used here?
So there is a mix, that's absolutely true. But what's important here
is because it seems that scientists have tried to get these figures out of the government for a long time and have been unable to.
Yes, the reason I can tell you actually, because yesterday I was in Teesside at one of our major gas terminals where they take gas from 30 different fields in the North Sea and they process it. And I was actually having this discussion with them. The reason why it's a complicated figure is some of it is processed and exported and then refined and re-imported. So gas and oil doesn't flow in a single direction. It also varies all the time with those pipelines that we have set up across the channel, for example. So that's why it's not so straightforward. But
indeed, so can you confirm how much of the energy that we're going to get out of these new fields is going to be used or sold in the UK? Because that's the same, isn't it? That's going to be shared around the world.
Yeah, the way to understand this marketplace is if we are not extracting it, then to be clear, we will have to make up the marginal difference in other ways. And predominantly, that will be through LNG, which is the natural gas imports. And when we do that, that is when we end up with all that additional 4 times the amount of carbon. So I'm not being evasive about it. The reality is, if we don't dig that ourselves, we still have the requirement for oil and gas. It is going to have to come from somewhere. And the answer is we become reliant on foreign states. We've seen how problematic that is for the world. And worst of all, import all that additional CO2. So it is simply nonsensical not to use the oil and gas in a very mature basin, which is in any case running out. And even extracting all this oil and gas will still have a decline of about 7% per year. But it does give us some security in the meantime.
In terms of that security, though, it's not the British government who's taking this oil and gas out. It's international companies. And the British government has no control over... You just said that you've just explained very clearly to our viewers how the market works, how the gas and oil that's extracted goes to the company and then it is distributed around the world. Some of it comes back to the UK, some of it's sold on the open market. It's not coming straight back to the UK. That is not a given. You're also not in any way able to control the price that we get for it. So you're not controlling the supply. You're not controlling the price. It's international energy companies who are. Well, why does that give us energy security?
I just want to sort of make sure we're factually on the same in the same place here. When I was looking at that gas terminal yesterday in Teesside, it's connected to 30 fields in in the North Sea, that gas has to route back to the UK. There isn't another place for it to go, by and large. It comes back to the UK. It is processed here, and it is either used directly. And it's either, as I said, primarily used here. In fact, the terminal I was at yesterday, for example, processes about half of the gas which is domestically used here. So yeah, but it's a very big part of that plan. You're right that lots of different things. Again, this is people's understanding of oil and gas is limited. I think a lot of oil and gas is turned into other products. For example, again yesterday at a different location, I was looking at where they take some of the product from the North Sea and it gets turned into plastics. It gets turned into medical devices and is used in the NHS, for example. Well,
I guess people are concerned about what's in their boilers, aren't they?
Yes, but that's not the whole of the industry. And even international, even people like the IPCC, that's the international body that looks after things like climate change, even they agree that by 2050, we will still require some oil from places like the North Sea if it was still available. So this is not, as is sometimes presented, quite as straightforward as people like to make out. Okay. On the other hand,
we haven't got very much time, so let's just quickly move on to one of the stories we hope to get your thoughts on. I don't know if you saw our exclusive story yesterday about...
When Liz Truss formed her government, she chose loyalty over competence. And here you can see Grant Shapps showing his true competence. The video's on screen now. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, and I'll see you next time.